a recess, and I know we're going to start our presentation. I think Mr. Collins did have a question for Ms. Lackey, so I'll let him ask his question because it had to deal with public hearings. So, Mr. Collins.
I was just curious that if the public hearing in regards to the increase, can you vote on an increase before you vote on your budget?
You can. It seems a little counterintuitive, but the statute specifically requires that waiting period between adopting the budget and the public hearing, but it doesn't say the same as to tax rate.
I have a quick follow-up question because I was just asked this. So where in the code section exactly is the 7-day waiting period to be found?
I can answer that. I have it open. 15.2-2506, publication and notice, public hearing, adjournment, monies not to be paid out until appropriated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kupka. Okay. Did anyone else have questions before we move on? All right, then we will move on to the courthouse update from Branch Construction.
I'm Abe Sankari. I'm the project manager on this job, this project. Last time I came on February 21, or the last meeting. So we started this project on November.
Could you pull the microphone a little bit closer? It's a little hard to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. I think we can. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So we started this project on in November, and we're gonna finish on February, and final completion April next year. What we done since our last meeting, if you remember, we did just the retaining wall, and now we finished all the foundation, the building foundations, lower level and first floor. And also we finished the slab on grade for first floor and lower level, and that's the first floor, and this is the lower level. Yeah. Also, we did all the skeleton of the building, steel structure. That's done last week, and we're doing the detailing now. So here's some pictures of the building. Some drone pictures. What we're working on now, this entrance, this one is open now, and we're gonna start working on the parking lot here. And as steel, we're working on putting all the metal decking, and we're gonna start the roofing details. We should finish the roof end of August, and we have the building dry then we can start working inside. All the side storm structure done. We finished. We cut this open, as I said before, construction interest. We're gonna start here working on the parking lot starting next week. We should have all the curb and gutter curb here done all around within 2 to 3 weeks, so we can use the parking lot for the construction and storage as well. That's here we started with the construction entrance, and that's the first curb here we poured this week. Now, what we're working on is the lower level now, or the CMU, and we should finish the cells on the lower level within 3 weeks now from now, and move up to the first floor. That's on our critical path now, and then we'll start with the envelope, with the building envelope, after finishing the roof. Here's a small video. Time lapse, what we've done so far. So last time when I came 3 months ago, we finished only this retaining wall. You're seeing it going up now. That's where I came, and then from 3 months till now, we finished building the skeleton. We have around 50 laborers working between laborers and foremen now, and that number is going to increase since we have good weather now and more work open inside the building and on site. The crane moved out to the site today, and that will open also a lot of work on site. As I said, we're going to start working on the curb and gutter and the parking lot in the front and the back of the building. All right. That's the update, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Ms. Bender.
A question on the build. Have you dealt with any issues or has it been pretty smooth so far?
Any issues like what construction?
Well, I'm going to give an example because this is the first project. I know this is a new thing to do the construction manager at risk.
Yeah, I know.
How has it gone compared to, the traditional method?
So this method is good because it's like open book between us and the construction team, the county construction team. So they know whatever we're spending, and we show them all the backups, and also it's a clear path between. It's a new for me as well, but I think it's going smooth.
Okay, thank you. Because one thing I love is no change orders. So thank you.
Does anyone else have questions?
We don't like change orders, by the way, because you think it's when we get that money, it's enough. It's not. We usually spend more time and something not you count for, it comes, but because we give you the price, and that's gonna add time to us and overhead, something you don't see. So we don't like it as a,
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the update. I appreciate it. All right, move on to action items, Department of Finance.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm here before you this evening in reference to the award of a contract for on-call professional planning and zoning services. Procurement issued RFP 0405-2023-1400 to solicit responses from qualified firms for professional planning and zoning services. On April 5th, 2023, 2 responses were received and reviewed. Staff then coordinated interviews with each firm. Both firms were found to be qualified and capable of any potential task orders required. With that, I would request that you authorize the county administrator to execute contracts with Bagby Ferugby and Good Pasture and Legacy Engineering PC for professional planning and zoning services subject to approval as to form by the county attorney. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions?
What's the amount?
The amount will be based on rates. It'll be per task order, which we don't have any task orders yet. But in your board packet, there were rates that were included that would govern the price proposal that any task orders that we would issue would be received back to us by those firms.
Go ahead, Ms. Bender.
Mr. Chair, this is for clarification for the public. Mr. Miller, these companies have been solicited for things that are outside of, we don't have the expertise in our community development these are for projects that might have a little bit more information. Is that correct?
That's correct. And or times where the timeline is so steep that our staff can't perform that.
Right. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? All right, then I'll bring it back to the board for consideration.
I move to authorize the county administrator to execute contracts with Bagby, Farugi, and Good Pasture and Legacy Engineering PC for professional planning and zoning services, subject to approval as to form by the county attorney.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we have Department of Finance and County Engineering Ralph Bunch Roof Replacement Project.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'm here to present change order number 1 for the Ralph Bunch Roof Replacement Project. This change order was necessary due to inadequate material found underneath the old roof once it was removed. This change order is for the amount of $51,645, and this will involve a transfer of $46,705 from the capital projects construction line to the Ralph Bunch Roof Replacement construction line. Any questions?
Do you have any questions? Okay. I'll bring it back to the board.
I move to authorize the execution of change order number 1 for the Ralph Bunch Roof Replacement Project in the amount of $51,645.00 and to transfer $46,705.00 from the capital projects construction line to the Ralph Bunch Roof Replacement construction line.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Do we have any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So this change should have been picked up by the engineering firm who did the engineering. Why was it not?
I believe that it was picked up by them, but it was a situation where your outgoing construction inspector had given a approval to them on a unit price, which was what this contract was based on. And therefore it was going to come back to us eventually. And through no fault of the engineering contractor, no fault of the consultant that we have on the project, they were utilizing an email address that did not exist or that was no longer in use for Mr. Cusenberry, who is the county engineer. They were using a email that went back to, like, I believe in 2006 or 7 from Mr. Cusenberry. And so they went ahead with the project based on the verbal consent that they had from county employees to go ahead and make these improvements because it was necessary at the time. And I think, as we have indicated to you in some discussions, it is one of those situations where it is an unfortunate circumstance. I don't know that you can put any fault on anybody. It just happened. Normally those kind of things don't happen, but you had somebody that was obviously transitioning out of work for us, and it just got dropped.
$51,000 mistake could pay for a starting teacher. So we shouldn't be making these mistakes.
Supervisor Collins, I would agree with you on that behalf, and I apologize to the board, and I apologize to the citizens, but this was a situation that very unfortunate, as we explained to you.
All right, we have a motion properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. So now we have the amendment to the agenda, the contract modification for USA. I won't go through the number, but
Ms. Hahn and Mr. Dines, you want to provide an overview on this?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. This subject is the contract modification for GSA 03122022-1400 for fiscal years 23-24. The recommended action is to authorize the county administration to execute a contract modification to GSA 03122022 to increase the amount of the contract from $255,788.16 to $314,400 beginning in 23-24. If you remember, when we had our budget work session and this project was moved from CIP to my operating budget, that we had increases in some services since we brought in fire rescue into our umbrella for antivirus, ConnectWise, remote access, the anti-spam filter, and Dragnet services. If you remember, we added that to our budget for this year for cybersecurity. Also, it would entail mobile device management for our county smartphones to regulate the sites people go to for safety reasons, and to be able to turn devices off if they're lost or stolen, and critical county data would not be subject to violation by a bad actor. So that increased the monthly fees from $21,315.68 to $26,200. And the funds for this increase have been included already in the 23-24 operating budget request. So since the budget is just now being solidified, this contract starts July 1. So we didn't know when we would be able to execute this until now we have our budget ready to be voted on. So that's basically why at the time of my work session review, I couldn't say that it was a proposed budget at that point. So I couldn't say we knew this was the case, that we were ready to make these changes in the actual contract. Because Ms. Hahn doesn't let anyone sign any contract unless it's coming from the county. So now that we're here tonight for this budget meeting, we can ask you for these additional funds.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Dines? Ms. Lackey, so could we vote on this tonight, or will we need to wait until the budget is considered and adopted?
So you all could vote to authorize the contract subject to appropriation, which can't occur until budget adoption.
So we could vote on it, but it wouldn't go into effect until the budget gets considered. So we could bring this back as an item to be considered at the time when we do the budget as well.
Right.
Okay.
And that was my question, is this something that had to be done tonight, or could we wait until the 20th? And I think the answer I got from you all was it's urgent. We need to get it here. So if the board did make some kind of an action then you could, as Ms. Lackey said, subject to the appropriation of the funds,
But that wouldn't happen until the June 20th timeframe.
so then this item just ought to not be on the agenda then. Is that fair?
Is that correct, Ms. Lackey?
Unless there's any funds in the current fiscal year that can be identified.
Ms. Hahn says no.
No.
Okay, then I would say I would ask my colleagues to bring this back at the next meeting, because it can't be executed until the budget's adopted. And so whether we were to approve it or not tonight, nothing's moving forward with it right now, is my understanding. So I'll ask my colleagues how you feel about that.
You can bring it back, but that's $57,000. It'll probably be 65,000 or 100,000 by the time it comes back again. Every time someone comes in front of this board, they give a number, and then the next week it's another number, and the week after that's another number. And I get very frustrated, and you can tell that from what I'm saying now. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question? So and this is the first that we've seen of this. When we got here, it was on the dais. On page 4 of 12, the purchase agreement, it says issued March 3rd, 2023, expires June 1st, 2023. Just like Mr. Collins said, are they going to, because it's past June 1st, are they going to come back with an increase?
No, it'll be the same.
Okay.
Okay, so I think the plan will be to bring it back.
That sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dines. I do appreciate the brief on it, though.
Thank you.
I love it. Yep. Okay. Next, we have a discussion item. So I'd ask to have this added, consideration of a zoning ordinance text amendment to allow vocational schools training facilities. So I did meet with a prospective business about a vocational school plan that they were interested in maybe bringing to the county and doing in our community. And right now, under our current zoning allowances, you can do a school as a special exception in like agricultural or commercial or industrial. And so those are activities that can be done, but it's similar to how we have like the microbrewery. It didn't detail out the specifics of having distilleries and micro wineries and what that all meant. We have a similar situation here. So they want a vocational school, but it just says school. And so there's not enough there from community development's interpretation to allow that kind of an activity. And so I'm coming and asking the board to consider and discuss the possibility of directing staff to prepare a text amendment to expand upon the definition of what school means in our zoning ordinance to detail out that information so that they could entertain bringing a business to our community. Go ahead, Ms. Pinder.
I'm all for bringing more vocational because not everybody can go to college or wants to go to college, and I'm 100% for that. But I am not against going out of the process. It has been stated many times we're supposed to follow the process and wait for the ordinance and overhaul to be finished. So this is one more time it's being brought out of order, and that I have a problem with.
Go ahead, Mr. Collins.
So that's correct, Ms. Bender. I have had limited success with bringing these text amendments out of order, but in this one, I would like to see this move forward and actually before the complete overhaul is done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did staff indicate that whether or not once the overhaul is complete, would that ordinance even allow for this proposed use? Because that would be my concern. I don't have a problem with moving forward with it. And I understand where Ms. Bender is coming from, but.
I understand. I'm not sure if it was currently captured in the ordinance, if it had enough of a definition for school. I imagine at that point, though, it would be captured similar to how we're doing, these changes for like micro wineries to make sure any of those text amendments are captured and then pulled forth as well to provide that detail So these kinds of businesses do have the opportunity going forth as well. But that's a fair question. We can bring it back and verify that with community development, make sure that they understand and that that's the desire. Mr. Collins.
It was my understanding that that particular business had a meeting with community development, and that's what was necessary to move forward. So I'm still ready to go forward.
Okay.
I'm ready as well. I just posed the question.
Oh, it's a good question. It's a fair question. Mr. Stonehill, would you like to weigh in?
So right now it's allowed by special exception right now.
It is allowed by special exception. And so what it would do is expand the definition of what school means to allow for this usage. But then, yes, they would still have to, wherever they were end up doing it, they would still have to come back to the county, go through that process. They can't do it by right anywhere.
Right. I would be in favor of moving forward to see what it looks like.
Okay. Okay. So I believe we have a majority of the board. So I'm ask staff to please prepare a text amendment and have it go through the process with community development and planning commission. Thank you everyone for considering that. Okay, move on to the county administrator's report.
The only item on here, because Mr. Stonehill's jabbing me in the leg saying, we can break a record here and get out of here by 8:37. So the only item that I have on here is a reminder that the CIP meeting is this Thursday here in the boardroom at 6 p.m. And I believe there is at your individual desks the CIP information. And I believe we got everybody's input. So you, excuse me, you see what the rankings that you guys all prefer. And I know that what it all comes down to is the financial ability to cover those projects. But we appreciate your work on that. So that's really it. I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Miller? Okay. Then
I will move to adjourn till June 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom.
Second.
we have a motion properly seconded. Do we have any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We're adjourned.